What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Lost Holocron podcast, where we will be talking the Acolyte episodes 3 and 4. We missed last week, just life got ahead of us. I am your host, Didge. There is no AJ this week, unfortunately. Life is still getting ahead of him. It sucks. We wish him the best, and hopefully that he can join us next week. But with me, as always, is the homie Jamie. Jamie, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be here. I rewatched the episodes, which I try to do before a podcast, but it rarely ever happens, honestly. But I rewatched them this time, and I feel like I'm putting a case together. I feel like some of my intuitions, they were right.
Hmm. Okay, well, actually, let's start there. You're saying that you believe. No, actually, I don't want to start exactly with your intuitions. Let's start first to go into. We will go first into episode 3. I'm trying to pull up the episode title so that way we can have just sort of a running. Oh, it's literally just Destiny. And that episode was specifically about the backstory of the twins. We got to know their mother, the coven leader, Mother Anasea, as
Mm-hmm.
well as her lover. I forgot the other lady's name.
Yeah, I don't remember her name.
Mother Coral.
Yep, something like that.
So we got to know about them, their coven, and how just basically the story of where May and Osha started.
Mm-hmm.
We found out that they were created by the Force, which interestingly enough, a lot of people, bad Star Wars fans, got up in arms about. It's interesting for these people who they love to claim that, like, oh, we read and we follow all of this stuff, or we know everything. It's, well, two things with that. Now, I just wanted to address it quick. No one ever said that Anakin Skywalker was the first to be created by the Force.
Mm.
And the big question behind his creation was there's no presumed father. It was his mother just all of a sudden had a baby.
I did not know that. Did they say that in the movie?
It's in the prequels,
Mm.
and it's sort of inferred, and the person who's telling him this story about how the dark side of the Force can do things like this, like create life and stuff, is Darth
Mm.
Sidious, who is clearly motivated by trying to get him on his side for whatever motive that he has. So do you not think that this person would lie? So it's always interesting to me that Star Wars fans, especially these terrible ones, love to pick and choose what they believe is law and then get upset that things have changed. The entire prequel series is essentially a retcon that was hated at the time, but now, because they can weaponize it for hate, it's law. And it's just like it's very interesting. I wanted to just get that off my chest very quickly. Like, there's been a whole huge fiasco with a lot of the Star Wars fandom because a lot of people are idiots. A lot of people love to assume ownership of something that's not theirs. Like, you are a visitor in something that someone created. Act like
Mm-hmm.
it. Like, you don't own it. And it's very interesting that people love to do the other way. Like, I love to get into debates and whatever, but I'm never gonna act like my word is law, like I own it. It's just fans having a good time. So,
Right.
like I said, that's neither here nor there. But I know episode 3 was very much a linchpin in that whole fire because, like I said, a lot of the lore that was introduced there with the witches, a lot of people, um, they just didn't want to accept it. That's there's no other way to put it. But I thought it was very cool. Like I said, they had their whole ceremony on wanting to be inducted into the ceremony, where May was full on in. Osha
Mm-hmm.
was kind of waffling about it. She was very I guess apprehensive is the best way to put it, about wanting to be a witch. So I think it was more so just the nature of, there were only 2 kids. She was tired of only seeing her sister. Being able to
Oh
see
yeah.
other kids in the galaxy was a huge driving force for her life. And so when the Jedi show up, they represented freedom, essentially, which is very ironic to me that this sect of people who are very much about control is representative of a freedom for this little girl, because the sect that she's a part of, it exhibits even more control. Like, you were either a witch with them, or in May's case, you could just die, which is also very weird. Like, it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead before we continue, because I was just trying to give a quick overview of the episode, but I want to hear your thoughts real quick on that.
Yeah, so there was, I talked a little bit about this episode with my mom, and she was kind of like, yeah, I don't know what's wrong with May. Like, why does she just want to kill Osha all of a sudden? And like it was kind of sudden, but she's also crazy. And
Yeah, I was
you
gonna say, I think
see,
she's very much not completely sane.
yeah, you see several moments, and even like watching it back and seeing some of I don't know what the actress's name, but she did a really great job of getting like some subtle I'm angry. Yeah, and I'm not gonna say
Um,
anything.
which, like,
The
like,
actress that child actress that played May.
ooh, I don't know the child actress's name. Let me see if I can
Yeah.
find it.
But I think she did a really good job of giving like those
Leah
subtle
Brady.
yeah, Leah Brady did a great job of getting like those subtle ticks of like, oh, I'm kind of losing it right now, but I'm trying to keep it together. So when she just decides like, okay, you don't want to like be my sister, like you don't want to live the same life, fine. Like I'll just take it. I'll just take yours because clearly you're not like deserving or whatever it might be. It did still feel like, even though I just rationalized, like, she is crazy, it did still feel like it came out of nowhere. It was like, oh, okay. Like, you
I
would
feel
think with, like, how much she expressed, like, her love for Osha and wanting to spend their whole lives together and, like, do everything together, that she wouldn't want to kill her. But I don't know. What were we going to say?
Well, I was gonna say, I think even in that sense, remember, she was trying to burn the diary. That was the first thing, because I think because one, we saw all episode that Osha wouldn't share the diary with May. May, it seemed like May very much felt like, we are twins. What's mine is yours. We are one. We are two halves of the same soul, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah.
So the diary that May or that Osha would never show May, it was very much like, you are trying to be your own individual. You aren't trying to be a part of this whole, whether it's the whole of the coven or it's the whole of me and you as a unit. We are Osha and May. We're not two separate people.
Right.
And it feels like the fire kind of got away from her. I don't think she was necessarily that upset that it got away from her, because it was very much, if you can't, like you said, if you can't be part of this unit, you don't deserve to be anywhere. You are here or nothing.
I don't know. I would have to look at it again. Maybe I could pull it up and silently watch it. It looked like, and even from like me watching it the first time, maybe she was trying to set the diary on fire, but there was like suddenly a lot of fire. So like,
now,
I don't
how quickly everything got on fire. It was crazy. I'll give you that. Like, you think she just went setting more?
She locked the door when she did it, so that it just makes it look even worse. But
yeah, fair. That's very fair.
So then, okay, so this fire happens, and everything's kind of just starts falling, like their whole like stronghold starts falling apart. Which first time I watched it, I was like, oh man, this is crazy. And then the second time I watched it, I was like, wait, why is everything just falling apart all of a sudden? Like their whole base started falling apart from this one fire.
To your point, Jamie, there's a lot of fire.
No. But here's my thing, right? May clearly knows that the Jedi that were there, like Soul and oh my gosh,
Bendara,
Kilnaka. I remember that one because that name is weird.
Yeah, but the only one I can't remember is the one who was meditating.
His name was
Torben.
Yeah, it was a T. But they clearly did something, and that I think that's what caused the base to fall down. They just got either lucky or they saw, hey, May set a fire. Now's our chance to do something, and then pin this all on May after. So, because I also don't think that this fire would just kill all those witches all of a sudden. I think somebody would have been running around. We would have seen somebody. I think now how the Jedi killed all those witches very quickly, I don't know. I couldn't answer that. But there's something else. There's some other factor. It wasn't just a fire happened and everything collapsed. I think the Jedi did something to actually cause the collapse.
That's fair. I don't have an easy answer as to what could have caused that. I don't think that the Jedi were completely innocent in everything that happened. It does feel very convenient that Soul was there immediately in the aftermath of the fire spreading, and May and Osha trying to escape. Well, Osha trying to get to May, and May, I don't know where she was going. She was just sort of running.
Well, so they were both standing on these like opposite sides, like these bridges, or it was a bridge, but now it's like broken up. And Osha was telling May to come here, and May was telling Osha to come here, and then they were also simultaneously like, "What did you do?" And she's like, "What did you do?"
Like, well, that's the thing. Like, but even before that, like after May said, and she could have just been really scared because of this fire, but she just sort of took off, and it's like, well, where were you going? And that's where, like I said, I don't fully know. So it's like, to your point, I don't think that, like I said, I don't think that the Jedi are completely blameless in what happened here. It does feel like something deeper than just this accidental fire. Not even accidental. It was an on-purpose fire that, quote unquote, spread out, caused everything. And I do think that sort of as the story unfolds, we'll find out a little bit more. But it was interesting just to sort of see, like, with this episode specifically, we were strictly strictly pushed to their past. No sort of preamble into it or anything. Like, for all intents and purposes, this felt like it could have been the first episode because it was pure, like, storyline wise, obviously it was purely in the past. It was purely just about how we got to where we got to at the beginning of episode 1, essentially.
Yeah.
And I think I do like the way that they did it, though, because knowing that May survived, just so seeing that Soul didn't even try to, like, when he saw her fall, he was like, well, that's it. I got Osha. I got what I can out of it and just left. And now you're kind of like, oh, I understand a little bit more of her anger, her whatever. But it's, to your point, why does she feel like the Jedi caused everything outside of obviously the obvious is Osha never.
I watched the fire happen. Yeah, I don't know what happened. She lit the book on fire, and next thing you know, it's everywhere.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like I don't. So like I to that point of, she clearly blames the Jedi for everything. We know that for a fact. I feel like it's too easy to just say it's because if they never would have said anything to Osha, she never would have had these desires to leave the family. Osha was already kind of distant. I won't, not like fully distant, but she was already having these second guesses. Like, she already had the diary before she met the Jedi. She was already going off to the woods, hiding for herself. Like, she already was wanting that freedom. So
she wanted to be an individual.
Yeah, for sure. So there has to be something deeper as to why she's blaming the Jedi for the destruction of her family and the destruction of their home. So you could be right.
Yeah, and then the other thing, and this happened in episode 4, but right before they go find like Kilnaka's body, Soul like pulls Osha aside. And he's like, like, after this is all over, like, I'll tell you like what happened on the ship. Which I feel like that's a red flag. Like, he's probably gonna die, and we're not gonna know.
You think so? I feel like he might not.
That's another admission of guilt of like something else actually happened, and Osha doesn't know.
The only reason I feel like he might not die is Lee Jung-jae and Carrie Ann Moss were the like splashy names that they like. Obviously, Daphne Keene and Amanda Sternberg were splashy names to be like, those are. But like the big names that like they brought in, and they already killed off Carrie Ann Moss. You think they do it to both of them, and we just left with Yord?
if he's not dead, I feel like he might be incapacitated in some kind of way. Like we might not see him for an episode or two.
I could
It's
see
just
that.
it's a red flag. I'm like something bad is gonna happen to him. Something bad.
Okay, well, before we get into episode 4, then we talked sort of about like our, we talked through the episode. We talked about like sort of our thoughts and stuff. How did you like the episode?
I'm glad you asked me that. I was gonna ask you that. I feel like looking back at both of these episodes, I thought that this one, I was like, this one is okay. It's cool. I think what really makes me intrigued by it is the backstory and kind of digging into the past of Osha and May and seeing them together. And then also kind of, I guess, some of May's motivations that we didn't really know before this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But as a whole, I don't know. I think there's something about this series in general that's not fully clicking with me. And I've seen like a lot of people talk about like not really vibing with the series so much. Granted, there's always going to be people like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know, kind of like the complaints that you voiced earlier about just like, oh, why are we doing this? Blah, blah. Like, I feel like if it was really hitting, those voices wouldn't be as loud. Um, but I don't know. That's just my opinion. For this episode, I think it was pretty solid. I would give it like a, I don't know. I didn't want to give it a score, but I would say it was a solid
I was saying you
episode.
didn't have to give it a score. You kind of backed yourself into that. I agree. I think I enjoyed the episode. I'll go out and give it a score. I'd probably give it a solid 8 out of 10. I think the just throwing us into the backstory, like the way episode 2 ended. Remember, we had saw Kelnaka, like that's where we were sort of on his planet.
Yes, yes.
He was going into his hut, whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
and without any preamble or anything, we were just struck back to the past for this episode. I think it was more so they're trying to keep the mystery vibe going.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think like the mystery is kind of over.
I
So,
mean
well,
it.
at least I don't know. There's
I feel
definitely
like
other
it
things we
is
don't
and it
know, but
isn't.
yeah,
Like the mystery, I felt like the mystery from what they were trying to portray in the trailers was very much, well, who is this acolyte? And they very much tried to make it look like May was the acolyte. Um and very much tried to have her be like, okay, what who is this that's killing all of these Jedi?
hmm,
And in the span of 2 episodes, they completely threw that upon its head because we knew who May was, we knew her motivation,
yeah,
we knew who was kind of pulling the strings, and I think they wanted you to recognize, well, the bigger mystery is, who is this masked person?
yeah,
Like, who are they? What kind of machinations do they have for the overall story, and why are they doing it?
hmm,
And to that point, specifically just talking about the first 3 episodes, obviously we're about to get in episode 4 as well. I felt like it was kind of falling flat on that. Like, I
yeah,
knew obviously that the masked person was the overarching villain of the series,
hmm,
but we only had really one scene with them at that point. So it was, okay, yeah, they're there, but how much are they really going to be there?
yeah,
Obviously, now as we turn into episode 4, we realize, okay, they're probably going to be there a lot more than you would have thought.
hmm,
Episode 4 is we're back in the present time. They're obviously on the search for Kanaka because they know that May is after her, or May is after him. The Jedi sort of, they're being secretive about it. They don't want the larger council to know, but like their secret council now, they're sort of formulating their plan to get to him, to basically stop this next step. They know 2 is on the way. They know Soul will be the 4th. They want to stop it at 3, and it was a very short episode, and I think that might have hurt it. Um,
yeah,
it very much felt, I could understand. I think it was Christian in Discord saying like it felt like a filler. It felt like they were trying to get to the next thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I can't necessarily. That's every story. So like, I didn't fully understand what he meant by like, oh, that's this episode is bad. It's because every story, everything in a story is a plot to get you to the next part.
Yeah.
Like that's
I think like I am hesitant to agree with some things that are said in the Discord, but I will say like, I was supportive of some of the things that Christian was saying because I also felt like this episode didn't like it was the one thing that I feel like Christian said that made sense to me that I'm like, oh yeah, I can agree with this, is that the episode kind of felt like it didn't go anywhere, and just as it was starting to get good and interesting, like, oh, what's gonna happen? Like the masked dude showed up, it ended. And like you said, it being a short episode doesn't really like help with this overall feeling of like trying to put the puzzle pieces together and progress the plot and whatnot. Um and I do think we had like some good character moments of like Osha getting to know Jackie.
mm-hmm.
Jackie getting to know her a little bit more and like kind of building that kind of camaraderie, and also seeing a little bit more of Soul and kind of I feel like we're starting to see like the cracks in his armor a little bit of like, oh my god, like May is back, like all these things can kind of like come back up that and be an Earth that he didn't necessarily want to have happen. um, but overall, it was kind of just like them going through a forest with some big bugs. That was gross. I didn't like that.
That's
um,
fair.
we find Kilnaka, and then the masked dude comes out. It's like, whoa, that's crazy. And then it was over, and I was like, oh, well.
I felt like this episode was more subtle in its advancing of the plot. Like you said, it was a lot of character building almost, where like you said, we got the interactions with Jackie and Osha. We learned more about Soul. We learned more about where the Jedi Council is as a whole. Like with obviously, I'm gonna just call it like the War Council or whatever. They're doing their whole part of like investigating and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but they're hiding stuff. They want to make sure that the overarching council doesn't know, because everybody else is going to or once they know, they're gonna have to tell the Senate, which is gonna
Yeah.
become this big fiasco and stuff. So it's this one. I felt like it's sort of laid the lay of the land, where it's like, you know, what people know of the High Republic era is like this golden era. It's supposed to be like this. Everything was bright. Everything was grand.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, there are always cracks showing up. Like, they're like their theme of there's light or there's darkness in the light. I feel like this episode is really showing what they meant by that. Um, Even in the interactions with Kamir and May, like she was, as soon as we started to see a difference in her character. She, quote unquote, is ready to give it all up because she knows Osha's alive.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like everything that we thought we knew the first half of the series, because there's only 8 episodes, so we're
Oh wow.
strictly in the midpoint. The
Yeah.
Everything that we thought we knew going into this series at this point, halfway through, is almost getting flipped,
Mm-hmm.
because now it's like, okay, it's not going to be the sister of the light versus the sister of the dark. It's not going to be, this super wholesome force trying to snuff out the darkness. It's like
Right.
everybody still has their own motives, and you're starting to see, well, where are these motives coming from, and you're
Mm-hmm.
starting to see what's going to drive them the second half of the series. Like I said, you can't. The elephant in the room is, yes, the episode was much too short. It does suck that the biggest action piece was at the very end of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think this episode was much more nuanced and story driven versus, okay, we're just going to throw action at you, and it's at that point it's just, what do you like? So I
Right.
can't fault somebody who's saying like, oh, it was bad for me because of this. It's the, oh no, this was just bad. This was just bad writing. It's like, well, no, you just wanted something different. Your
Yeah.
opinion doesn't make it fact.
I think I don't know, some of those complaints about like I guess like bad writing, I think it might almost be kind of like what you were saying about the subtlety of like them like moving the plot forward and helping you get to know some of these characters a little bit more. Because I do like I don't think everything has to be big and bolsterous. Like, let's do a flashback to their childhood so we could see
Yeah,
what's
and
next.
I
It
definitely
can just
wasn't
be
meaning
simple
you
conversations.
specifically.
No, yeah, no. I was just saying, like, I think that subtlety sometimes doesn't work for people, especially like, I don't know. TikTok has caused brain rot for a lot of people as well.
You are correct.
So sometimes they just need something like right in their face to help them understand it. No shade if that's not what the case was, but if it was, you just have to recognize who you are. But I did like that we kind of, I think, solidified May's character when she, what was the guy's name?
I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Khmer. It's spelled
Amir.
it's Qimir. I don't know how else you would
Ooh,
pronounce that.
I don't know.
So
We'll call him Q. I like
that's fair.
I liked when May was talking with Q and kind of came to this realization, like, you know what? Like, I'm not doing any of this for like this master that I've never seen or never been in the presence of. Like, I'm doing this for my sister, who I thought was dead. But now that I found out that she's alive and I still have like a piece of my family, and especially like, how she talked about in her childhood, like them being like two parts of a whole, like, I don't need to do this anymore. Like, she was actually willing to turn herself over to Kilnaka, and that's why she walked in the room and found him dead. So I thought that was actually really interesting and was kind of hoping we got like a little bit more from it, but then the dude with the creepy helmet walks there. Which I remember when we watched the episode, you were saying that maybe it was Kamir that might have been like the big bad, like the master of it all. I could kind of see that.
I don't know. You were saying that you think it could be so. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think that this rules that out.
Ooh, you think he got like he hired somebody or something?
You gotta figure in this age
That
of
would be smart.
all of this mystery and stuff. I feel like it's too early to just immediately rule someone out.
That's fair.
Especially
What
those two.
if? See, okay, this theory I've already found a flaw. But what if the group of Jedi that went to like pick up Osha and May, what if they were all like this big master person and they all shared the part at different instances, But then the only issue with that is Soul's the only one left. Unless there was a secret fifth member.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know.
Now we're getting into the weeds of it.
I mean, that's kind of what you were saying. Well, not exactly, but you were saying maybe Soul brought somebody else in.
Well, to be
if
honest,
he was the bad guy,
I just think he would have just had Kamir do it. Like I do. No matter what, I feel like I'm just calling him Q as well now. I feel like Q is definitely evil. Like we know he's like we know he's evil because of like the stuff that he's saying, but like I feel like he's bigger evil than he's sort of letting himself play as right now. Like he's sort of the way he's sort of playing himself as like a pawn in this overall game, and I feel like he's a little higher than that. Whether or not Soul is evil or not, I don't know. I'm just sort of like maybe like
at this point, I'm like either he's evil or reformed evil. Like he did something bad at some point. That's how
fair.
I feel.
The only person I know that is strictly for sure good, and it's just because he's such a jerk about it, is Yord. Like I know for a fact he's not evil. He's just an asshole. Like
I don't know. That's the perfect cover up, Didge. That's the perfect cover up.
I feel like they wouldn't play. Well, no, I feel like you're right. You might play somebody that good, and then that's the the major switch at the end.
Right, they're exactly who they expect you to be, and they won't think it's you.
Yes, I mean that was your original prediction. Remember, I wrote them down. You have that Soul and Yord are evil.
Yeah.
And jury's still out. Actually, jury's still out on all of ours. AJ said that the masked character is Darth Plagueis, which is still out because we don't know yet. We don't know who this guy is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said that the whole thing is orchestrated by the masked character, which whoever it could be, which obviously the jury's still out.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh, that feels like an easy prediction to make. This is all orchestrated
No,
by the
but remember, I
mastermind.
said even from the beginning. So we're talking even the fire. I said from the very beginning.
From the very beginning. I don't know about that one.
I mean, you were saying you don't know how the fire spread. You don't think he was out there like I can just kill.
I truly believe that either there was some very flammable material that was on the outside of that door, or it just the fire. I don't know. It just
You don't think so?
something
You don't
happened.
think somebody who's trying to orchestrate this whole thing from the? I don't
Who?
necessarily
So it's
think
gotta be
he.
somebody in the coven then, or something.
No, I mean whoever. I think whoever the masked person is. We don't know who the masked
How did
person
they
is.
get there?
We don't know who they are. They could be. They could have been somebody from the coven. But my whole thing is, if you're looking, so if you're a dark side user, you're looking to usher in this era of darkness, and
Mm-hmm.
you want to have somebody who is fiercely loyal to their side. Say you are obviously we know that the Jedi had been watching them. We don't
Yeah.
know who we don't know if somebody else could have been watching these two girls at the same time. It sounds very creepy to say it that way.
Mm.
That sounded terrible. But we don't know if somebody was watching them outside of the Jedi and they're looking like, okay, this one girl, especially May, is fiercely, fiercely loyal. So I'm
Mhm.
gonna put it in motion that she loses everything, and now I have my fiercest, I have my most loyal soldier.
Mm.
It's a very twisted and diabolical thing to do, but we are talking about somebody who is supposed to be twisted and diabolical.
What if it's the mother this whole time?
That would be crazy because it's like, why did you need to hide yourself? I feel like at that point you
I
could
mean,
just
they
be.
had to hide themselves, you know?
But even afterwards, that'd be wild if it was just like the mother this entire time.
Because I'm like, it's either somebody in the coven that was actually there, so it makes sense they'd be there, or it was one of the Jedi that helped kind of like push this fire along. But I feel like if it was Soul,
Wait,
I feel
I'm
like he would
guess
act different.
I feel like if we know that the Jedi had been watching them outside of this, you don't
Yeah.
think that a third party could have been also watching?
That's a lot of eyes for nobody to notice. I don't know. That's a lot. That's a
They didn't.
lot.
They didn't notice four Jedi. You don't think a fifth person is?
But I mean, the Jedi didn't notice them though.
Well, I think that's the thing with like at this time, the Jedi are very ignorant to the dark side. They are because they thought it was extinguished. Even all the way up until the prequels in Episode 1, when there were reports about Darth Maul, it was no, the Sith have been extinct. So
Mm.
it's very easy to believe that Jedi, even of that time, are just like, there's no dark side.
And I do have to say that they did kind of know. They didn't know specifically it was the Jedi, but they knew there was somebody that was watching them. Because she came to get the girls when they were in the forest. She's like, "I told y'all not to be out here. Like, y'all come back to the base." And then they were talking amongst each other, like, I don't know if they explicitly said like, "Oh, they're a Jedi that have been hanging around," or like they're just people, but they knew somebody was kind of in the periphery. Now,
So
granted, did they know that there were two different parties or one party? That's a different question.
that's a fair. That's what I'm saying. I feel like it. I won't say it's easy to believe. I feel like it's not outside of the realm of question to think, could this have been all fully orchestrated by whoever this
Oh
masked
my
person
god.
is?
I'm just imagining like this reveal of somebody like going to the fire, like trying to
Oh, why are you making it like? If you make it silly, of course it's gonna
I don't
seem
know. Like
silly.
this whole thing to me seems silly. Like I'm like, how is this possible? I don't know. If they do something, I would die laughing. I would
You
die
act like
laughing.
he's gonna be there with like like the straw, like how you know you gotta
Like,
blow, you gotta get the
yeah,
fire, how you gotta get the. He's gonna have the little thing, or
yep.
like
Throw some hay, straw on
right.
it. Oh no,
Oh
man, that's why I don't know. I'm very curious to see how that works out. If your theory is correct,
yeah,
that'd
I'm
be wild.
curious too. I'm obviously we're just really focused on like who is this masked person. I think I saw in one of the trailers that the mask was on the ground, so I think we get a face reveal at some point.
Oh,
But
okay.
also, just because the mask was on the ground doesn't mean we're gonna get a face reveal. We could just see it get knocked off. to get like an off screen like them, like, oh my god, and then
Yeah,
it just
that'd be
goes.
Master Chief. You never see Master Chief's face.
So I'm really interested to see where that goes. Like I said, there are only 4 more episodes left. We are strictly at the midpoint.
Well,
Um,
is there something after this?
I don't know. Actually, I can't remember. I know
Hmm.
Skeleton Crew has to be coming at some point. I think they're still slated for 2024. I'll have to double check.
Let me see real quick. Find. Let's see. Star Wars.
I don't think they have a date for it yet.
2024. Um. So.
I think because, like I said, the Skeleton Crew is the only thing I could think of that I know had a release window because it said 2024. But
Yeah.
when in
Skeleton
2024, I don't.
Crew. It says Andor season 2, possibly this year. I don't think
I
so.
think they were. I don't see Andor season 2 being
I
this year
don't think
because I
so.
thought they were filming that as recently as I want to say April.
Mm.
So,
Yeah,
oh,
I
okay,
think
no,
Skeleton Crew is probably the best bet.
filming actually wrapped for that in February. It might have been post production that I was hearing about then. So maybe I doubt it still, but I feel like Andor season 2 could be very much a hey, at Star Wars Celebration next year, we're
Yeah.
giving you the date.
Yeah, I could see that. So dang, that would mean no Star Wars for a bit then.
Yeah, until yeah, after Skeleton Crew, yeah, there's so. But how do you feel? Okay, so now obviously we talked about how we felt about the 3rd episode. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
spoke on the 4th as we were going through the recap of it.
Mm-hmm.
Midway point, you confident in how they're going to stick the landing, or how are you feeling?
That's a good question. I feel like this series suffers from the fact that I think previous Star Wars series have just been so good and have really hit for me that this one I'm kind of like I don't necessarily know where it's going, and I don't feel like I'm like what is this saying? Like I'm like itching to be like, oh yes, I need to see the like how this all like plays together. I need to put together a playbook kind of thing. Like I'm kind of just like more casually watching this show.
Okay.
Um I have been enjoying the episodes. I feel like we've kind of hit like a little bit of a I guess a lull with episodes 3 and 4 not really being where I would have liked them to be. I think still good, but asking a little bit more from them. So, I don't know. That's kind of happened with some Disney series where they hit a little bit of a lull in the middle, but they usually pick back up.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think as far as expectations go, I'm really just curious to see like how they're gonna pull this whole mystery together because like we were talking about earlier, like some aspects of it of like who is this like person that's going around killing the Jedi? Like we figured that out. We also figured out the relation to our main character. We still need to figure out like who this like dark master person is, and also I think I'm most curious about like what did these 4 Jedi do that was so bad that it's kind of like eating at soul. And certainly I feel like May definitely saw it. Why she hasn't spoke on it up to this point, I don't know, but I'm curious to hear more about that.
That's fair. Yeah, and I wonder if the thing that's eating soul the most is one. He thought he left the little girl to like he thought he left the girl to her death. Like he for all intents and purposes is like I don't know if it didn't look like he tried that hard, but like I think he's like it could be eating at him that like he's like I could only say one of the two, like whether I left them to their death or I just know that they died.
Mm-hmm.
I could have did more or whatever to try to save both. And then now seeing that she's alive, I wonder if it's eating at him even worse. It's like I left them then. Like
Yep.
I abandoned her. And so
Yep.
I wonder if that's sort of what's eating at him the most.
It's interesting because part of me feels like, he feels bad, like, oh my God, I left this child behind. But the other part of me is like, oh, I didn't finish the job.
But
Because
see, that's because you
listen,
think that he's evil.
when he talked to the other, I don't remember the other Jedi's name, but she's like green, has the bald head, like
Oh,
the
Vernestra Rowe.
yeah. When he talked to Vanessa Rowe, he was talking about how he can lure May in with OSHA. And so that's when and it didn't seem like it was kind of like, oh, bring the sisters back together kind of thing. He's like, I'm putting bait on this hook. I
Well,
need
at this point,
OSHA.
now at this point, she was clearly a threat. I think he's like, she has to die. Now, to your point, if he's evil, he's like, well, she was gonna have to die regardless. I needed to kill her. So, uh, either way, I think the reason why, as of now, he was sort of going that route is she was a clear threat, and they're tasked with eliminating the threat, not necessarily
Yeah.
apprehending the threat. Whether he has, like I said, personal motives of why she should die, outside of that, I can't speak on. I'm curious to see where this goes. I'm really interested if he turns out to just be pure good. How that's
That would
gonna
be so crazy to me because I'm like, how did this happen? I'm like, there are so many signs that he's got something shady going on. For him to be completely
like if his
clean hands.
that's what I'm saying. Like if it just turns out that he's just completely clean cut and all of this was just the guilt of, like I said, leaving this girl, I'm really curious to see your reaction to it.
Yeah, I definitely be floored.
But for me, I think I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I'm, like I said, I am enjoying the series.
Mhm.
I don't do too well with murder mysteries that I feel like have dragged on too long. And to
Oh,
your point, I feel like the big mystery I initially wanted to know about, like you said, they've answered it. We know
yeah,
who's killing the Jedi. We know at least the surface level reason of why.
yeah.
So I do like that they added sort of this secondary mystery of, okay, well, who was actually pulling the strings of her right here, and adding the point of, well, is she or is she not going to truly flip? Like, for all intents and purposes, what we believe right now is that she's going to flip because
Mhm.
all she cares about is that her sister's alive.
Yep.
Um, I I'm gonna obviously continue watching. It's not a case of
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't want to watch or anything. Um, but I do think that overall it might be missing like the one thing.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily I don't know what it is. I'm not equipped to say right now what it is. Um, but it's one of those things where it's like it's good, it's almost there,
Mhm.
but it's missing a little pizzazz.
Yeah.
And it
I
very
think it's
much
like the order of events, I feel like is hurting this show a little bit with like the mystery parts, like they could have, instead of completely like answering like who is this person that's going around killing the Jedi, it could have been something where they really focus on like Osha and Soul's relationship and how Soul, maybe he gets an inkling of who it is, or maybe he even knows who it is based on the targets and he's not saying anything and Osha kind of catches on to that. Like that would have been a little bit more interesting than just kind of revealing your cards right off the bat. Because then for me, like to have that reveal automatically, there has to be like this other greater mystery that's like, this is the real big picture. Like this was just like something on the side that is not even as grand as what we're trying to build you up to. But that build up for me, like we don't really have that many kind of like pieces to kind of say like, oh, who is this mastermind or like what is their intention? It's all still kind of a blur. I feel like that's what's missing from like good mysteries is really like giving people all the pieces that they need to put it together. Instead of just like suddenly like here's all this evidence, like here's all the things
yeah.
you need.
Yeah, I would have for sure loved if they would have held on to the even if, like you said, if Soul would have known for sure, like, oh no, May is alive,
Mm-hmm.
and even if, like, honestly, I didn't mind Osha finding out, but it's the everybody knowing, where even if it was a situation of, say, May or Osha just knew, or
Yeah.
Osha and Soul knew, and it's okay, the reason why they're still together trying to basically still prove her innocence. Like, I feel like just keeping that into this story wouldn't have changed much, but it would have made it feel better from a viewer standpoint.
Right, because then it gives people additional motives, like, why is Osha holding on to this kind of information? And you kind of see how it affects her and how the story plays out. But we don't really have like those kinds of interactions right now. It
Mm-hmm.
feels like, there's May and the Dark Lord, like Sith Lord, or I guess early just Dark Force person on this side, and then everything else that's going on over here. Like it doesn't feel connected yet.
That's fair. Yeah, I would agree. But overall, like I said, I'm really interested to see how this is going to stick the landing, and see where the
Yeah.
landing itself is going to go.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like a rewatch. I want to rewatch it once everything is done. Like, I probably will do like a 2 day watch once the whole series is out, because I'm curious how many Easter eggs, or just how much of the groundwork has been laid.
Right.
Um,
That's one of the
and
best
we just
parts
don't
of
know.
a mystery is like usually great mysteries, like they'll just put stuff in your face that you don't even know to look for.
Right.
And if they can have those kind of things happen at the end of the series, I'm like, oh, I was wrong. They
Right.
put stuff out there and I just didn't see it. And that's
Right.
what I'm hoping for.
And that's where I'm really curious as to, like, that's, well, I won't even say I'm curious. I think that's kind of the drawback sometimes of doing shows week to week review. Like, obviously it needs to be done. You want to do whatever,
Hmm.
but sometimes you find yourself in the trap of reviewing the parts, and sometimes parts are messy until you see the whole
Hmm.
image.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm really curious to see where this will end up, and I definitely am interested to see how my opinion will change once we have the full image.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
But before we get out of here, let's where can the people find you? What you got coming up?
Yeah, so you guys can find me at Swiper_Prime on Twitch and YouTube. I've been streaming Final Fantasy VII on my Twitch and on YouTube. I've been playing through Ocarina of Time. As of time of recording this, I actually just beat the Water Temple, so I'm on to the Shadow Temple next. I'm kind of scared. And yeah, I've also been working on my Blender project, as I've probably said the past few months now. But me and Didge, we've issued each other a challenge where we're gonna try and like wrap up some of these projects, or at least like have a good portion of it done by the end of July. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've been pushing towards that. I feel like I've actually made really good progress this time. So I'm feeling confident. Hopefully my confidence continues to stick with me.
We
and
love to see it.
hopefully by the end of July, beginning of August, I'll have something to share with you guys.
We love to see it. We love to see it for sure. But you can find me at Didge_DEE everywhere, and also here on the Geekset Podcast channel. Over on my YouTube and Twitch, I've been playing Diablo. There's obviously all of the demos and stuff that we've played
Oh
for
yeah.
Steam Next Fest. At some point, Jamie and I will get a list together. I know we said we wanted to sort of give some of our favorites of the week.
I was
Um,
thinking about that. I'm like, are we still doing that? I don't know.
yeah, I'm sure at
I'm
some
down
point
though. I'm down.
we can definitely put something together. Hopefully, some of
Yeah.
those demos will still be up.
Mhm.
And go from there. But yeah, until next time, have a good one. Peace.
Bye.